All right. Hey, everyone. Sorry, I'm running really far behind today. Let me see who we have. Secretary in the chat. Uh, and no, I haven't even looked at that. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining. I'm running really behind today. Sorry about that. I hope you've been watching my update channel because I've been putting out videos every day. That's why I could barely keep up with my regular schedule here. Um, You notice here I changed the link on my overlay. That's my Telegram channel. Okay, I want to explain a couple of things here real quick. So before we get started, hey Kai, good to see you. So I put this link in the description. By the way, this Telegram link. I'm also going to put it here in the chat. Here, I'm going to put it in the chat here. So you guys in the chat. Now I realize that link up there would be better if it was like a QR code. I realized that, but I had no time to generate a QR code. So that's really for the people who watch on Twitter. Hold on a second, because those are the people that they can't see what's going on here, like in the chat or anything like that. Here, so I'm going to put it so people can see. Right, that's the link. That's the Telegram channel link. It's a free channel, and I know so you're gonna have to type it in because we don't have the vanity link or whatever. You're gonna have to type it in. I apologize for that. Next time I'll have a QR code. But anyway, so do the best you can, or just come to this YouTube channel here, and I have the link in the description. Okay. So anyway, so if you're new to the stream, welcome. Normally what I do is I run through the economic calendar, then we go through some charts, and then we look at some other, I answer questions about stocks or anything else you guys may be interested in, that kind of thing. All right. And so let me explain to you what's going on with this Telegram channel and this trade challenge. There's a whole bunch of things going on, right? If you guys have been watching my channel. What's it? I don't know. Yeah, I call it Twitter, right? Because I can't remember its new name, but yeah, you have to use your imagination on that, booty cheeks. I'm sure you have an imagination that can really come up with something good. So anyway, so let me just explain a couple of things real quick because a lot of change is happening here. I'm working with a team and they're making all this possible because people asked me for the longest time, why don't you have a Telegram channel? Because I could not manage all that, right? So because I'm working with a team, now I have the resources to do these sort of things. And so I just want to explain like how this works so you guys have an idea because just about like a little less than an hour ago, we put out a link, a trade for link, a swing trade for link USDT, right? So how is this about? How does this work? Well, so for one, I'm working with a group, and they happen to be traders also. They're not like just marketing people or anything like that. They happen to be traders. So what we do is they came up with this idea for this 10K to 100K challenge thing, right? And so I had to set up this WeX thing and all this other stuff so that I could put these trades in this account. And then we're tracking it through this precision profits platform or whatever. So we could see all the trades, right? All the details. But the important part of the whole thing is the trades are being called first. So you could see them and paper trade them or whatever. So you could see what's going on firsthand, right? So it's not like we're coming out with these after the fact. Hey, Sean, how are you? And so, and I haven't been in my own community. I haven't been there in a while. I saw people sent me like, Sean, you sent me a private message in there, and that was like a year ago, like practically. I haven't been in there in a while, so I apologize for that. But I've just been trying to take care of other things. So anyway, so I want to explain this Telegram channel. So we're coming up with so the way we're doing this as a group is we're coming up with trade ideas, right, for the channel. So it's a consensus based I guess you could say strategy where we all input our ideas into a channel, right? And it's going to be focused on cryptocurrencies and nothing else. And there are swing trades, so you're not going to see NASDAQ futures trades in there, right? So we come up with ideas, right? Everyone puts their idea in a private channel. It could be Link, it could be Render. Like I had Render the week before, Render, whatever, right? Whatever where we come up with ideas, and then we vote on these ideas, and whatever idea gets the most votes, that's the one I'm going to take, and that's the one you can see in the channel, right? So that's where render came from, and that's where link came from, right? So I'm not using the Trade Scanner Pro for this. Because, and the reason for this is these guys are ICT guys, right? And you guys know I'm not an ICT guy exactly. So what they're doing is when I have an idea, they look at it through their ICT lens, right? And then that's how they vote on it. So if it makes sense in their ICT framework, then it gets a vote, right? That's basically how it works. So I'm explaining how it works in the background, and then you guys see the result in the Telegram channel, right? That's what you're seeing in the Telegram channel. Hey, James. So, all right, so that's a good question. What exactly is Profits Precision? It's a tracking platform. So it allows you to track all your trade activity. Like you can upload your trades from whatever MetaTrader or whatever exchange you're using, and you could, I know, Kai, you know what that is. You can Google it, ICT. Let me explain ICT in a moment. That's why I want to do this stream. But guys, so for the updates, the link is in the description for the Telegram channel. You could see the link here up on my overlay, which I apologize, you have to type in. Next time I'll have a QR code, but do the best you can. And that's mostly for you lazy people in Twitter who don't come into my YouTube channel, but you're watching from Twitter. But because I don't have the link on Twitter. Anyway, so you could see it. I put it on the channel earlier. I put it up on the channel, and I put it in the stream here in the chat, and it's in the description. Anyway, so I highly recommend you go there, and so you could see all the updates, right, and all these trades and all this stuff that's taking place. Now, let me explain Profits Precision. Okay, so hey, Izzy, how are you? From Kuala Lumpur. Good to see you. See, I remember this time. So first thing I want to mention is the so first let me answer the Profits Precision. That's real quick, and then I'll mention we'll talk about ICT real quick because that's relevant to this conversation. So Profits Precision, like I said, it's a tracking platform. It's journaling and tracking your trades. So it helps you see what you're doing. It helps you recognize any patterns that you may have. It keeps you on track if you're like on a prop firm or that kind of stuff. So it's basically like a journaling software. And the reason why I'm using it is so that we could track the trades for this challenge that these guys helped me organize, right? So the 10K to 100K challenge, and all the trades are going to be going through this Profits Precision platform, so you can see all the details of the trade, right? So that's what it is. And it's a subscription based thing, but it's relatively inexpensive. I think it's something like 20 euros a month or 15 euros a month, something like that. It's in euros because it's their platform. So I think it's helpful, and it's helpful for this challenge that I'm doing. So that's why I'm using it. Anyway, so you could there's the link and all that stuff. If you go to profitsprecision.com, you can learn all the information about that. Also, in my videos, I mention it in the videos, and there's a link in the description on my videos, so you could check that as well. On the Mark's Market channel, right? Which I should put that link in the chat here as well. But if you go to the Telegram channel, you'll see all the stuff from that channel anyway. I'm just going to put that in here real quick. The YouTube. I should have had that on the low overlay too, but man, I had to get this together real fast, man. I've been working on these videos, like these videos that you see that I'm coming out with every day. They take up all my time. I mean, they're only 10-minute videos, but they take me hours to produce. So, because I have to juggle that around my schedule. Anyway, all right. So let me just put this in here. Mark's Market, right? So if you go to this YouTube channel, this is my daily update channel. Let me make sure I spelled it correctly here. Okay, if you go to that, right, that's in the chat there, and I'll just put it up on the screen real quick so you can see it. If you go to that has all the information as well. The links in all those videos has all that information as well. Okay, so anyway, so let's talk about ICT real quick. All right, so let me know if you have any questions about that stuff, you guys. Now, ICT. You can Google it. ICT is a controversial framework, right? Because there's a guy who came up with this stuff, and it's very popular, especially in the prop firm space. Everyone uses ICT concepts and blah, blah, blah. I've been a critic of it because it's, for the most part, it's a lot of nonsense, right? Now, here's the thing. So the guys that I'm working with, they're ICT guys. So I said, all right, let me look into this. I've been researching the techniques further, right? And what I've learned is there's some value to the techniques themselves. The problem that I have is the explanations, right? This is the conspiracy theory. So what this guy has done, the guy that originated this, is he basically took concepts from someone else, who I'm going to mention here, and he reshaped those concepts, right? He basically stole them, and then he inserted a conspiracy theory component to it, and that's what sells the retail trader. That's what attracts the retail trader. Because if you call something like an order block, for example, right? If you call an order block support or resistance, it's boring. And it's like, okay, well, who cares, right? It's that's nothing new. But if you say an order block is where an institution has huge orders that they have to fill, and that's why markets move, now that sounds a lot more compelling, right? It's nonsense. I know market makers. I had the opportunity to actual market makers that act in a professional capacity in Bitcoin and all these some of these exchanges, right? When I was at the competition thing, and I asked these guys about this, like, what is it like for them? They told me. They don't sit there with an order block and all that nonsense. Most of that market makers are mostly algo driven. Everything they do is algo driven, and all they're interested in is being delta neutral and collecting their spreads and protecting themselves from getting caught on one side of the market. That's it, right? So they don't sit there and say, "Oh, we see retail traders and we're going to do a sweep." And no, they don't do that. That's ICT, conspiracy theory, and that's what sells ICT. Now, that's the part that I'm a critic about, right? So, but there is value to the concepts, and I believe that there's value to the concepts, number one, because it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, very similar to like how moving averages work, right? You know, you have a 200 period moving average and price will touch it, and a lot of times price will react, or a whole number, right? Price will react to a whole number. Why is that? Because everyone is thinking and doing the same things, right? That's why there's a tendency to react where you can anticipate certain types of behavior. Now, where do the concepts originate from? This is what a lot of people don't know. These concepts come from a guy named Larry Williams. Larry Williams is a real trader. Okay, he's a legendary trader. He's a guy that all the big traders from like the 90s and early 2000s, um, they all looked up to Larry Williams, right? I mean, he still does. Like he has done a, he conducted an interview recently, you know, and he's an older guy now, but and I had the chance to meet Larry Williams, and he's like the original cowboy. He's like the original like speculator, and he dates back to like the 1960s. Like he told me what it was like, how he would trade stocks in the 1960s, which I thought was wild, man. Anyway, he's a real trader. So he had some kind of seminar back in the 90s. And this ICT guy was one of the attendees of the webinar or seminar. There were no webinars back then. Seminar, right? And so he basically took the ideas and stole them from Larry Williams, and he just reshaped them. That's what ICT is. And how do I know this? Because I watched an interview with this ICT guy, and he mentioned that he went to this seminar and blah, blah, blah. And I asked Larry, you have a seminar in the 90s and this and that? And he said, yeah. He explained he had this whole thing. He had this training program and blah, blah, blah. And I said to him, you know, you're responsible for a cult. And he looked at me, what are you talking about? You know, and I explained to him the ICT situation, you know, and he wasn't too happy about what I told him. But the thing is, the concepts come from Larry Williams. That's why there's some, they're valid, right? It's just the conspiracy theory stuff is nonsense. So understand so when I realized, okay, that's what's going on. Some of these concepts, they work, you know, in a general sense, like similar to a moving average, like I said, like fair value gaps and order blocks and things like that, right? Like the idea, essentially, they're unconventional ways to identify support and resistance levels, right? Essentially, that's what they are, and they work really well, especially on smaller time frames. So the reason why I explain all this, it's not I'm not changing, I'm not becoming an ICT guy all of a sudden, but the guys I work with are ICT guys. So I have to adjust a little bit as far as if I'm working with them and we're calling trades together, you know, I have to kind of understand what they're looking at so that I could tie it into what I'm looking at. Does that make sense? So that's what's going on. And that's what's like this whole challenge thing is. And that's where the trades are coming from. Okay. So in my other channel, yeah, I have to yell and scream and jump around like a monkey to entertain people. That's the entertainment value aspect. But most of that analysis, some of it's a little biased, but most of it I agree with, right? And if it was something that I was really not like, if it was a real conflict for me, I would make sure that I mentioned that, like, okay, I don't agree with this over here or something. You know what I mean? And a lot of times in those videos, you can tell I add my 2 cents. Like I'll mention their part of this. They give me a script. So I look at their part and I mention their part. And then I'll say, and by the way, look at this, right? And that's me putting my part in. Okay. Just so you guys know. So here you're getting kind of like the behind the scenes version of what that channel is all about. So Booty Cheeks asks me, do you know these market makers in a big way? No, not in a biblical sense. No, but they're not like Santa Claus or anything like that. But I actually met some guys that actually make markets in Bitcoin and in a few of these other for some of these exchanges, and I got to sit in on some conversations with them on like how they do things exactly, and how they make money and what they're actually how they're operating. And there's no conspiracy theories. Okay, they're simply running algos that are measuring certain things with order flow, but their goal is to be delta neutral. Unless if there's a strong bias in the market, then they'll mathematically open up their spread because they have to be on both sides of the market. They'll open up their spread a bit to try to take advantage of the bias, but they don't sit there and trade trends. They're not responsible for big moves, the sweeps and all this. No, no. So don't get caught up in that. No, they don't drive one. Okay. No one seems to be any guys that I know that really work in this business don't have any. I have not seen one of those yet. Okay, it's only the fake gurus that have those, and I still have to rent mine. I'm telling you, Booty, I'm working on the girl, man. I'm working on the girl. Speaking of Booty, I'm working. I got to find the right girl so that she could be sitting next to me, and then I'm going to give her a laptop, and I'm going to be like, all right, we're going to trade while I drive the car. I drive, you trade, and I'll look at you because you look good, right? And that's the only reason why you're here. So anyway, and you're going to press the buttons on the laptop. And I think that would be a hilarious video. Don't steal my idea, you guys. Wow, some fake guru now is going to be doing that exact thing. So anyway, all right. So that's the explanation. You guys clear on that? Let me know if you have any questions so we could talk about charts here and stuff like that. But that's where it's going. So in the channel is like there's multiple updates every day in that Telegram channel. The other YouTube channel, there's a new video every day. It's a lot of work, man. And so we have this challenge. Trades are going to be coming out, so you can follow them. You can paper trade them, whatever you want to do. But you'll see a record of everything, and all that stuff. Okay, so that's where that's going there. So for this channel, again, I can talk to you guys. I can answer questions. We can do behind the scenes stuff. I just can't go over those particular charts here, right? That's for the other YouTube channel. But I could talk about ETFs. I can talk about stocks. I could talk about whatever else you want to talk about. Economic stuff. We could talk about that here as well. All right. So anyway, that's the story. There was something else I wanted to mention to you guys, and now I can't remember what it was. All right. Oh, yeah. Economic calendar. How long have I been talking? 20 minutes, man. All right. Economic calendar. So this week we have a couple of important things, right? So we have the CPI report, which I believe, is that on Wednesday? Maybe someone could fact check me on this. I think that's Wednesday. It's 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, CPI. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. I don't think it's tomorrow. You guys have to double check, man. It's been hectic for me. And we also have the other major thing we have this week is on Thursday. We have a Senate hearing or a Senate vote on regulation for cryptocurrencies. That's important. There he is. Alex from Romania. Let's go from Romania. I love Romania. I wanted to say Romania in those videos, but they said, no, you can't do that. No Romania. Romania. So I got to do it on my stream over here. Romania. I love Romania. Okay, Sean, are you liking any sectors right now for long-term position trades? I'm selling into gold strength. Oh, nice. Nice, Sean. You making some nice money on those? No problem. No problem. No problem, Alex. From Romania. I need to get like a Roman like sword or something, or like a shield. Romania. Anyway, yeah. So Sean, that's a good question. Sean, I would imagine you made some nice money on those. I mean, those gold miners must be going nuts. I don't even want to look at them. Um, so yeah, so good questions. All right, so let's get into the charts. So you guys know the economic calendar again. That vote, there's a vote on Thursday, and that can have an effect. That outcome can affect things like Bitcoin and Ethereum in a dramatic way, possibly, right? Because I guess they're voting on some type of regulatory thing, right? So just be aware of that. And we have CPI this week. There was a couple of other ones, but not as important. All right, just make sure you check that calendar. By the way, we're going to put a event calendar list in the Telegram channel, right? So I think that would be a nice thing to have, so we could see what events are coming out each week, the weekly list of events, economic events. All right, so let's start running through the charts real quick, and then I'm going to answer your question. Sean, this is a very good question. Let me just put it in the channel here so people can see it. But things like, okay, nice. Oh, nice, nice. I mean, with the gold, I would imagine. Well, sometimes the problem with the miners is they sell their profits in advance, right? So gold goes nuts, and then they're not in because they sold their, they sell their, they whatever they produce, they sell futures against it, right? So they pre-sell their stuff, and gold goes berserk, and they're not in it, right? So they have the same problem we have, but they got to lock in their profits. They got to be able to figure out what their profits are. And I don't know exactly how a gold mine works, but I know that there are certain miners. That's what they do. They hedge, or they sell their profits in advance through futures contracts, right? And then they deliver the gold based on that contract or whatever. That's a general idea. All right. So anyway, so Sean, I like this question. Any long term position trades, because this is the time of the year to be looking at that, right? This is the month really that sets the tone for the year. So if you're going to do longer term stuff, this is a good time. So there's a couple of stocks that I like. Right, that's right, Kai. Not all of them do it. Some of them do it. So that's why when you're doing a gold miner, you have to know. Sure, Sezel. Sure, Andrew. Alec, it confused me. Your name. Can you just put the symbol, the ticker, and long or short, so I know what you want to see, like from what perspective? The problem with miners is you're not allowed to traffic them. Booty cheeks, man. Come on, man. You're gonna get me kicked out of here. You're gonna get me banned. No, that's not that bad. No, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, miners. You can find yourself in jail. So anyway, all right. So let's go over our general stocks real quick, and then so we have a lot to cover here. And then I can't stay on here real long. I got to make my video. I got to make my next video. It's been driving me nuts, man, making those videos. So, and I hope you guys are enjoying them. I'm long Bitcoin. Right. Right. Interesting, Sean. Me too. I'm interested in Hood. I have some coin, very little, and Mister. Yeah. I like strategy. I like strategy too. Those are great stocks. All right. And actually, I was going to bring up Robinhood, which was Alex's suggestion a couple of weeks ago. So so great. So let's talk about that. But anyway, all right. Let's first jump through these stocks real quick. I know I keep saying that, we're not doing it. Here's the S&P, right? You see the S&P behind me here. The Spider ETF. I mean, this thing. Look, it's up today. What, 82 cents? I mean, this thing is it's just in nonsense mode. It doesn't pull back, right? It doesn't pull back. So this thing. I mean, this is a strange candle that we see right here. I don't know what the deal is with that candle, why it looks like that. I mean, there's something wrong there, but that's essentially an outside bar. I'm not going to really put a lot of weight on this because this looks like some kind of bad tick situation. But the point is the price, right? It's not the candle, it's the price. The price is above this resistance here, okay? It's above. So that's important, okay? Thanks, Alex. And yeah, so again, but you guys want to help me out, go to that Telegram channel, and because there's a lot of good information that's there right now, and a lot more that's going to be coming out, right? That link trade, that we just sent out, earlier today and all that stuff, right? I would recommend you guys paper trade it and check that out. Those trades, by the way, are typically about 2 hours. They may be longer. Like render was 2 hours. They're swing trades, and they're based. The entries are based on 15-minute charts, but the analysis is coming from the larger time frames, like 2 hour, 4 hour, things like that. And they're meant basically to hold for maybe a day, a couple of days, but they're not day trades. Okay, they're not like 5-minute NASDAQ trades. All right, just to be clear. All right, back to the S&P. So we broke this resistance, and this is pretty important because we've been producing higher lows as you see here, right? Higher lows, and higher lows typically lead to higher highs. We have a higher high. So I'm sure if you turn on like the mainstream news, they're going to be sitting there, hey, we made new highs today in the S&P. Hey, let's have a party. Okay, that's great if you're in it. But, I would not be in a hurry to buy this thing right now because every time this thing pushes highs, it increases the chances that we're going to see some type of pullback. So this is where the risk is greater. If you wanted to take lower risk with stocks, generally stocks, you want to do it on a pullback, right? So now if you buy this breakout, you're taking greater risk. So that's the first thing I want to point out. But it is a sign of strength. So in this situation like this, the best thing to do, in my opinion, is wait for a retest of this old resistance if you're looking to put on some positions in stocks, especially mainstream market stocks, okay? So that's one support. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight the key levels, right, that you really should be watching. And now you may not trade the S&P or the SPY, and that's okay. You can use this for your stock choices, right? You use this as a guide, just like you can use Bitcoin or Ethereum as a guide for other altcoins. So you have this support here, okay? You have this support here. These are your support levels. You have this support right here, okay? You have this right here. Those are your levels on the S&P. This most recent one is going to be your minor one, right? This one that's basically coincides with that resistance. That's going to be minor because it just broke. It's very nearby. A heavier support is going to be like the lower ones, right? Because those are where all the people that are looking for buying opportunities start stepping in, typically, right? That's why you can anticipate that type of behavior near these previous lows. Does that make sense? So that's what you want to keep an eye on. Can we look at MP? Okay, sure. So bullish MP. All right. And Alex, let me know sizzle. Let me know the symbol and let me know if you're thinking long or short. All right, so that's S&P, right? So let me know if you have questions about that. You could put those levels on your chart there, but this serves as a guide for your stocks, your general market stocks. Like your main, your mainstream names. All right, let's take a quick look at the NASDAQ real quick. We can look at QQQ. I mean, they're going to be similar, right? But look, notice the NASDAQ's not making all-time highs, not yet. The S&P looks like it's ahead of the game here, right? Look at this. So we're messing around this resistance. We have not broken out of this consolidation, but the structure is similar, right? We still have higher low. We have a higher low over here, right? We're going for the higher high. So this is good. Like if you're in stocks, okay, this is good. You want to see this. This is great. You want to let your positions ride. But taking on new positions here, I just think is riskier, in this sense. Does that make sense? As far as stocks go, look at this. You're in this resistance here. You have this resistance up here. And if there's a conflict, right? If CPI comes out wrong or comes out bearish or something or whatever, and this thing reverses, it's going to pull the whole market back with it. All right, that's the NASDAQ. So NASDAQ levels, again, it's going to be very similar to the S&P. I'll just put them on the chart here, right? This is a major level over here, this area right here, okay? This one right here, that's a major level. And by the way, these levels that I'm drawing, these are similar to how like order blocks work. Like for example, this right here is an order block. An order block. That's an order block because it's an order block is basically the candle before a move, the opposite candle before the move. So in case of a bullish swing, it's the most recent the most recent negative candle, right? That range of prices is an order block, right? Where institutions sit there and they're going to put massive orders in the market and all this other nonsense. No, it's just a support level. It's just a support level. Okay, but if you see, there was a reaction in that general range, wasn't there? Right? So that's essentially how an order block works. They don't guarantee anything, but they're a good reference point, just like a moving average, right? So anyway, that general area, is a support, and your resistances are here. Okay, that's a resistance, and then this is a resistance. We push above that new high on the all-time high in NASDAQ. That's going to be very bullish, and that's something that would be good to see this month. Okay, this thing. So, and as long as these structures now, like I'm warning you about taking more risk. These are higher risk prices, right? But understand the likelihood of the breakout follow through is greater because you're coming off of higher lows, right? Higher lows. The market gets shaky or much more uncertain if we break below a low. A strong market should not do that. If it breaks below this level on the Qs happens to be 610. So if we're clearing, we're pushing 600, we're pushing lower. That's not what we want to see. That negates the idea of a bullish structure. Does that make sense? And that's where you have to make adjustments. Maybe like if we test support and we don't hold it, you don't want to be buying stocks and going nuts buying stocks. Right? Maybe you adjust. Maybe you take smaller positions. Maybe you wait until you get some kind of confirmation of some other type of reversal. Hey, Benjamin. Sure. Okay, right. You put that right. Okay. Long or short? Like what position, what perspective? Long or short? Let me know. All right. So let's move along here because I want to cover your stocks too. Let's move along. So that's Qs. Now let's take a look at the bond market. Right? Bond market's going to be important this week because we have a CPI report and that has an effect. Now remember, we had non-farm payrolls on Friday. And so there was an effect here on the bond market, right? This is the bond prices, the futures prices, 10-year note prices, right? So this was Friday's candle over here, the previous candle. Look at this. So let's make this bigger here. Bond prices look like they're working their way lower. There's a support right there. We have a lower high over here. Those are not bullish signs, okay? Now, bond prices going lower means the 10-year yield is rising or potentially can rise. That is not good, right? The market does not want to see that, right? Trump doesn't want to see that. Booty Cheeks doesn't want to see that. No one wants to see that. I'm in love. I love the Chinese stock market. Do you think? Well, okay, that's a good question, Benjamin. We could take a look at that. That's going to be a function of, I think, global money supply. And like the yen, the interest rate on the yen may have an effect on that because now, I mean, China and Japan, I'm just kind of suspecting that because the yen generally has an effect on global money supply, that could affect something like China. Okay, but I don't know. I'm not as well versed on that, and I'm not an economist. I just want to see sports cars and super. Me too. I know. I just got to. I'm trying. I'm telling you, man. I'm getting it together. I just need some more time. Yes, models and I don't know how. I don't think I can get like a Victoria's Secret model, a former one. Forget the new ones. One of the classic ones. I don't think I can get one at that caliber. But I'm doing the best I can. All right. Anyway, so the bond market here again. I bring this up because this is like your roadmap, especially when it comes for investing, right? So like Sean and you guys asking me about bigger picture investment type situations. Start with this because this is like your this is where the game begins. Now, like I said, this is looking bear. The structure generally looks bearish, but that doesn't mean we have a bearish trend intact yet, right? It's got to clear the support. Let's look at the weekly real quick, right? It's got to clear the support, and it hasn't done that yet. This, in fact, may turn into a higher low, similar to the Bitcoin situation, right? When you look at Bitcoin charts, especially on the other channel, we have this, especially when you look at the weekly and monthly charts, we have a situation that looks very similar to this, where we have this pullback and it's consolidating, and it's like coiling and getting tight. This can be a higher low. That's why I don't want you to get all confused and think, oh, yeah, that's bearish. It's not. we have some bearish signs, but it's not exactly bearish yet. And we have a lot of interest, we have like administration interest and other higher powered interests that want to see this market do this. And they're going to play their little game to do that. Excuse me. By the way, the Federal Reserve, they can support the bond market and they can print as much money and buy as much bonds as they want, right? And that's how they can affect the 10-year note. Because interest rate adjustments, when they have their rate announcements, that doesn't have a major effect on the longer durations. So they could step in and they can buy bonds, and that's how they can drive the yields lower. That's one tool that they use. That's how they print money. That's also called quantitative easing, right? Which there's been talk about that. So that's the kind of environment we're going into. So again, your clues are going to come when you see this thing turn around and give you a break above this resistance, right? That's going to be like a rally call for the stocks. So positioning now for the stocks for that event is a good idea. Of course, you're taking more risk now because if this breaks the wrong way, then you're going to feel some pain, right? Generally, as long as you don't over leverage the stocks. Does that make sense? So use this as a starting point for your game plan, because this is going to affect Bitcoin and everything else as well. Cheap money is going to make everything great, right? Let's make everything great again, right? Cheap money. And then we'll have to pay for that at some point. But right now, if cheap money comes back, everyone's going to have money again and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to throw it all around. You're going to see altcoin season again and all that other garbage, right? So it begins here. And right now, we don't have that situation yet. But we had 3 rate cuts, and the rate cuts take time to work their way into the market. Plus, I have to remind everyone that we're no longer going to have Powell movements in May. Okay, booty cheeks, I'm sorry about that. No more Powell movements, so you could keep your shorts on. All right, and we're going to have a new guy. So, and that new guy is going to be saying yes to everything, and we're going to see rates go lower. That's going to make for a more bullish environment, or a higher probability of a generally bullish environment. Does that make sense, you guys? All right, let's move along. So that's the bond market. Let me know if you have questions. I'm going to jump through these next charts real quick because I want to answer the questions from you guys. So let's go to, let's see, I had gold and oil. Let's see, gold, let's do XAU, USD, right? So gold is just effing nuts, man. I tried messing around like day trades on this thing. It's a bad idea to try to day trade this thing, unless of course you're on the right side. But the wrong side, man, by the time you realize it's the wrong side, you're like, how am I minus $500 in 5 minutes? So so this thing is on fire. Like this, don't mess with gold. That's all I'm going to say. Don't mess with it on the wrong side. This thing's bullish. It just made a new all-time high. Let's look at the weekly. Okay? Look at that. This thing is just nonstop. So I would just say with something like this, if you could find entries on smaller time frames, that would probably be the best bet. Like let's take a quick look at a 15-minute chart and see what this looks like on a 15-minute, right? I mean, look, most of the move came here. What was this? The open of the day? What was this? Is this overnight? Yeah, this is overnight, right? So the gold started out pretty much, that was the overnight move on gold, right? At 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then, I mean, all it's doing is just working its way higher. You can find in these formations, right? I'm not going to get into the details here, but you can find fair value gaps. All right. And fair value gaps, like I said, act as support or resistance. Like I said, I'm not Mr. ICT expert over here, but like there's one over here, and you want to look if this general trend is bullish, you want to look at bullish ones, not bearish ones. And they don't all work. Like here's one over here. This one failed. Okay. You have a bullish one over here. As you can see, like it blows through the fair value gap and then goes back above through it. Okay. But like, look at something like this. And this is probably more appropriate for like day trades. Look at this. There's one right here, right? Look at that. This is a 15-minute chart. So something like this little tap, this little tail right there, that candle, that reversed inside the fair value gap. So basically, you could have had a heads up to take a small position or whatever, and this thing bounced a bit. But as you can see, this is not something you hold on to. You got to take your profits because this thing, there was some value in there, but if you held on, you get stopped out. So understand that they're not like these things that guarantee some kind of, oh yeah, this thing's going to trend, blah blah blah. But then when you look at like when the trend breaks, or they have a thing called trend change of character, choach, right? I mean, look at this. That's a bearish one right here. Fair value gap. This candle touched inside that gap and could have been worth something. But again, that's more of a day trade mentality. I just wanted to mention that. Okay, let's move along. That's gold. Let's take a look at oil real quick, right? Because oil's been getting, with all this Venezuela, now that we control Venezuela, and we have our new country, Venezuela, our 51st state or whatever, 52nd state. How many states do we have in this country? Is Puerto Rico a state? Okay, anyway, so let's go to the daily time frame. This is oil. Now, remember, I've been talking about oil. We talked about oil here as a few times over the previous weeks. You guys remember? Remember, I called it over here. I said, "Wow, that looks like a great place to buy oil." Remember that? And then we have a higher low developed here. Now, interesting thing with oil is it's not really making sense in terms of the logic, at least the logic that I was considering with the Venezuela situation, because you would think that since they're sitting on top of a very large oil deposit or whatever, and U.S. companies are going to go in there and they're going to start pulling out that oil, you would think more oil online, more supply. Shouldn't oil be going lower? So I don't know what the rationale is for this. But so I don't question it. I'm not going to sit there and say, well, I'm right about oil, and oil is obviously the market doesn't like my idea. Okay. Obviously the market is like, no, oil's going higher. Okay. That it's going higher. That's what it wants to do. We have a higher low in place, right? And this is where we're having a good grasp of technicals can help you if you have a flawed fundamental idea. My idea was, well, we should see more supply in oil. Oil should be weak. Now, maybe over the longer term, oil will be weak. And maybe this resistance that we're coming to up on oil, was this resistance here? $60. Maybe that resistance will stick, and maybe the fundamental idea of more oil coming online would make sense here, right? Maybe. I don't know. But so for example, if I had gotten short oil on my idea and I saw this higher low get established and confirm once it broke this candle high over here, this red candle high, I'm wrong. I'm wrong. My short is wrong. I need to get out or get stopped out or something, right? Because this thing is going to go the wrong way on me further now, right? That's my confirmation to get the F out if I haven't gotten out yet, right? So just important to understand. Venezuela minimum investment is 100 billion. With US companies laying off workers, no chance they're going to Venezuela. No chance they're going to. So what do you mean, Sean? Like, so you're saying that the rationale behind is, oh, so what you're saying? You're saying that like OPEC is going to basically decrease production to compensate for the increased production or the perceived increase in production from Venezuela. And now Sean is saying they're not going to do it. They're not. They don't. We don't have the capacity to do it. So it's going to cost $100 billion. So here's what Sean is saying. This is interesting, Sean. Thank you for sharing. It's going to cost $100 billion. U.S. company. So and since U.S. companies are right now, we're busy laying off workers, and the rigs are going to be, I guess, not producing that capacity. All right, that's interesting. All right, because I'm not really well versed on this. I was just kind of going with general, like a general idea. The reason for the is not America needs more oil. So, oh, okay. Oh, okay. So that explains. I think they're okay. Interesting. No, thanks for sharing this stuff, guys. This is why we do this in the chat, right? So we could share information. This is very good to know. Very good to know. Thanks, you guys. Let's see. What's Sean? I don't think U.S. companies are going in at all. Okay. 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 So that's interesting, right? Because again, there's a lot of players in oil. And obviously, us taking over Venezuela, I mean, Booty Cheek says that we want to keep the oil from others so that they have to pay higher prices, right? And then, of course, OPEC is going to have their say. Now, I mean, my thinking was driving, if we're going to pump more oil into the system, that's going to lower energy prices, and it bolsters our argument to cut rates further. That was my thinking. Which again, I'm just thinking like in generalities. I don't actually have any research to back that up, but I'm just thinking, we took over a country, they have a lot of oil. If we could get that oil out and flood the market with it, it lowers energy prices. And since that's the agenda, it seems to be here to cut rates and have free money flowing all over the place. A big sticking point is the argument over inflation, and energy prices are a big component of inflation. So this is certainly not good for the inflationary argument. Anyway, so it's good to see, like, even if you don't trade oil, it's good to see how this fits in to the geopolitical landscape, because that combined with the bond market, combined with gold, like it kind of gives you some perspective, right? Especially when it comes to long-term investing stocks, because these things will overall affect the money supply, whether it's domestic or global. And then the money supply is going to have an effect on the stock market, right? Whether it's domestic or not. So let's take a look. So I want to mention this before we jump into your suggestions, guys, your requests. I'm going to do them, but let's take a look at IWM, because there's this thing called the January effect. Oh man, that's the wrong one. Okay, IWM. Okay, so IWM, this is the Russell 2000, right? Let's take a look at the weekly. This thing looks like it's on fire, man. Look at this. Look at this. These are the small caps, right? So this is an important sign. If we close this month out strong, this thing continues on this path, that's a bullish outlook for the year right there. Okay, so keep an eye on this. This is your penny stocks. These are your small caps. They depend on borrowing money, and these are your high growth stocks. So far, I mean, there's nothing bearish about this. I mean, let's take a look at the monthly. Let's take a look at the monthly real quick. I mean, look at this. This thing looks like an altcoin. Look at this, right? I mean, going back a few years, look at this. I mean, let me just see. I just want to look at the month. So that was back in 20. Okay, that was back in 20, right? That this candle here was okay. So this situation right here, you know what this was over here? That's when that's when we had a Powell movement, a major Powell movement, and he put rates at 0. Remember that? He put rates at 0. And we got this. Okay? So we're in easy money environment 2.0. You see that? That's not a coincidence. This is a function of interest rates. So the market is clearly anticipating a Powell movement, the removal of Powell, and a yes man who's just going to we're looking at aggressively cutting rates, right? And money printing, but they got to fix that bond market situation. But you see, this is a sign. So keep this in mind. This is a sign. I'm just curious. Let me just go like, where were we? This was a year ago. This is where we were. See that? It was bullish, right? The candle was green, but it was an inside bar. It was look at that. I mean, look at that. Compare this candle. Let me make it bigger so you guys can see. Okay? Look at this. Compare this candle right here, okay? Compare that candle to this candle. Now, of course, this candle isn't closed yet. We still got, a couple of weeks, but still, you see where we're going, right? What is this? I mean, it's possible this thing could give the whole thing back, but if it stays like this, that's a sign. All right, that's all I want to point out. Okay, excuse me. Let's take a look at your suggestions, you guys. Excuse me. All right, let me start with Sean here, because Sean is very patient, and he asked me, I think he was like the first guy to ask me in the chat. Let me just go back to the chat here. I can't talk anymore because I've been yelling too much on those videos. All right, where's Sean over here? Sean. And it's good to see you, Sean. I haven't seen Sean in the chat in a while. All right. So let's oh, come on. Why isn't this thing moving? Okay, hold on, guys. I'm just going back in the chat. And I'm just looking through the chat here. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Okay. Is this it right here? I think this is this it. Hold on, Sean. Okay, no. So you're asking about stocks, right? You're asking about long-term stocks. Okay, so let me answer that question real quick. Right. So, like as Alex pointed out, and Sean, you mentioned it yourself. I'm going to run through the charts real quick, and we're going to go back to the weekly. Let's start with like Coinbase, right? So you have your cryptocurrency stock choices. I like these stocks long term. I definitely like them, and I want to buy more Coinbase. Look, this is Coinbase. Where are we at right now? 242. Okay, and the week below, I'm looking at the lows. I mean, this is going to look very similar to the Bitcoin chart, right? This is going to look very similar. So when Bitcoin gets out of its own way, and that may begin this Thursday because we have that Senate hearing thing. That may get it started. We'll see. We need to clear 95K on Bitcoin, which basically is like it kind of what do you call it? It coincides with the 270 level on our 270 280 level on Coinbase, right? But I like Coinbase. I like this stock a lot. I like it better than Strategy because I believe it's a lower beta than Strategy. But I like this. I like Robinhood. Robinhood's a beautiful looking. Look at this. Robinhood is I like this one a lot. The structure is crystal clear, right? It looks way better than Coinbase. It looks way better than Strategy. That's a symmetrical triangle, right? This thing it's sitting at this support. If there's a long-term investment, man, I mean, this is it. Let's take a look at the monthly. I mean, look, the monthly has barely pulled back. Look at this. That actually looks very similar to Bitcoin on the monthly as well. I just think this is a very healthy chart. On top of that, look at the wave count, right? Look, the wave count is so clear on this, right? This is the monthly chart, guys. So look at this. Let's make this nice and big, right? Look at this. This is first wave, wave one. This is wave two. Actually, I'll use rectangles. Hold on. So this section right here is wave one, right? That's wave one. This is wave two, pullback. See that? Wave two. This is wave three. Very typical. Wave three, major expansion, growth type of wave, right? Typical wave four. Look, pullback. Wave four. Wave four has not overlapped the top of wave one. Look, you have this entire overlap area. You see that area? That's the top of wave one to the bottom of wave four. As long as price stays inside of that area or it does not go below this rectangle, that's a wave four, which means there's a greater probability of the next wave higher. Again, these are monthly candles. So a reasonable profit objective for something like Hood based on that idea is the previous high. What is this? The all-time high is 153, 153.86, 154, right? And right now we're at 117. So there's some room in this thing. I like this thing as an investment, right? Bigger picture. Those are the main stocks. Now, as far as other stocks go, I don't really have any other, like, I would be looking at that IWM, right? Small caps. But obviously, we need a pullback of some kind because this is kind of, I think this is a bad spot to be buying it now. But you want to keep an eye on this market for any type of pullback, right? Look on the daily time frame. Any pullback into, if you want to buy like the ETF, I think this is a good choice because it's like, well, what small cap do you buy? Just buy the whole index, right? This level right here, what is that? The 252.5, this level right here, old resistance, new support. So that would be one suggestion. I have to look up like some specific high growth stocks. I don't really have any specific ones on my radar. Okay. Yeah. But the main ones, Sean, are the ones that you're in, and I don't have any other ones besides this. If you could find any small caps, it's just small caps. You want to find ones with like the lowest supply outstanding, the lowest supply of shares. You want to find ones that have some type of event on the horizon. Usually biotechs are good for that, or pharmaceuticals. They usually have some kind of like FDA approval event. A lot of times those can be good. You know, the news comes out and next thing you know they're up 30%. You know, that kind of thing, right? So, but I don't have any other any specifics. Excuse me. All right, so I hope that answers your question, Sean. Um, okay, so I'm just going through the chat for the other requests here. Let me see here. Hold on, I just got to scroll through this chat. All right, so Sean, okay. Oh yeah, well let me just do Mr. real quick, MSTR, because you know we all love Michael Saylor. I mean this thing, the beta on this thing is just. This is why I hesitate with Mr. Because I mean this thing got hammered, and it's at 161 right now. You know, Bitcoin's been trying to get out of its way. I think Mr. will the MSTR will really start moving when Bitcoin starts moving. This is like basically it has like a lagging effect, and Bitcoin really needs to start pushing, right? And I think this thing will start pushing, right? But if Bitcoin starts getting hammered, this thing's probably going to get hammered even further. I mean, they almost got kicked out of the NASDAQ, right? So you got to be careful with this one. But levels to watch for, right? Confirmation levels would be a breakout above this resistance right here, which is what? Let's see. 172 and a half. Okay. So it can easily do it. It's going to be a function of news. And clearly the guy is long a boatload of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin really starts moving, I mean, this is just a riskier stock to buy. If you're buying this thing, understand that this thing could go to 120. You know, understand that it can happen. So like, what if they change their mind and they pull out of the NASDAQ? You know, like that's not good, man. You know, Michael Saylor, I don't know. Just buy more. He's funny because he'll come out and say, if you can't handle a 95% fluctuation in your portfolio, then I don't think stocks are for you. Okay, Michael, 95%, thanks. I'm exaggerating, but he says nonsensical things like that. Anyway, all right. So let me move along here. MP from Kai, bullish. Let's take a look. Kai usually has some good suggestions here. Let's see. Bullish on Kai on MP. Let's take a quick look. What is and Materials Corp? What is this like? Is this a rare earth play? What is this, Kai? I like the here's the weekly. I like the general picture. Look at this. One. Can we count from here? Let's see. We can count from all the way on the bottom here. This is like a very elongated 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that a 1? This overall thing is a 1, 2. No, that doesn't make sense. So I guess the count would have to be from here. 1. See that's the thing with wave counts. It's subjective in a lot of ways, and it's like, so where do you begin counting? You know, do you count from the absolute bottom or do you count from here? Right? This really a impulse structure at 1, 2? If this is 3, 4, is this overlap? There's no overlap there, so that doesn't really cancel that out. I don't know how to categorize this mess on the bottom, but this beginning from here, the count is pretty clear. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right? That's clear, right? And then you can call this your A wave, A, B, C. This is your A wave, or you can look at it this way. I like to use the wave counts for the roadmap. We can just call this entire thing wave 1, right? Which then makes this wave 2, okay? And there's 3 waves in it, which means this could potentially be the beginning of wave 3. You can look at it that way as well, right? Now, how far was this pullback? Let's see. If that's wave 2, let's see. What is that? 5.0 around is that 5.0? Yeah, all right. So it's around the 50% retracement, okay, of this entire move. This entire move, the 50% retracement is around here. Okay. So in terms of wave counts, excuse me, that fits a wave 2. Wave 2 could retrace 100%, but in this case, it retraced 50%. That still fits the criteria of a wave 2. If that's a broad wave 2, because again, this is the weekly chart, you're looking at a potential wave 3. Wave 3s are usually, Kai, usually, wave 3s look like this, right? So this, I like this. It has that potential. I mean, the wave count is compelling. I don't know what they do. Let me see. Maybe you put it in the chat. Let me just go back. Uh, Mr. Powers. Oh, I'm glad someone gets that joke. I'm glad someone knows what I'm talking about, Mr. Powers. Because every time I read those news items, it's always like $1 trillion or $1 billion, and I always think of Doctor Evil, for that. And that's actually my Doctor Evil impression, but it happens to sound like Michael Saylor, Mr. Powers. That's where I get that from. I'm glad someone knows what I'm talking about. I'm like, no one probably knows what I'm talking about with that. I do a lot of jokes that they're just funny for me. I have a vertical. Oh, you have a vertical call spread. Okay. Rare earth and others deeply connected to U.S. government. Vertically. Ah, interesting. Interesting. Okay. So I would imagine Trump may be in the stock, people. That's my bad Trump impression. Let's make MP great again. MP materials. Going along is basically going along imperialism and great power. Okay. So basically, you're going along Trump. Let's make MP great again. So, all right, that's good to know, Kai. I learned something new today. So, so it's very compelling, and obviously, if this is let's make it great again, folks. So, this may be since that's the administration in play, and that's where everything happens. This might be a good idea. So, Sean, you're looking for long-term plays. I like this idea. I like it's a materials play, it's a Trump play, it's a whole bunch of plays, and it's a nice compelling wave count structure. So definitely, I'd like to. I mean, right now, look, it's pushing this resistance. Just looking on the shorter term movement, it's pushing this resistance over here, right? So maybe buying it at this moment may not be the greatest idea, but any type of pullback might be a great idea. Or, I mean, if you go for the breakout, just understand it might be a little riskier. The ideal prices for something like this would be retest of low. But if this market starts moving, this thing's not likely to retest the low, right? So you have to decide in that situation, right? So you may find some support. There's a little gap over here. You have a fair value gap. There's a few things going on over here. So, I mean, a good reference point might be this midpoint here. What is that? $60. $60 whole number. This thing's at what, $65? So a $5 pullback is not completely unreasonable. That might be a good place, or if you want to just have some cojones and get into this thing now, it's just going to require more, faith. Greenland, folks, we're going to make Greenland great again. we're going to have some new property acquisition, collect more rents. You could pay in fart coin. You could pay your rent, people. All right, I moved. Okay. Okay, right. So I like it, Kai. I like it. Great suggestion. Thanks for sharing that. So MP guys, I like it. I like it. Okay, so let's go back. We had a few other ones. Real quick before I wrap this thing up. I will likely. Okay. And by the way, Kai has a vertical spread on, which is that's a nice way to go about it, Kai. Because if it pulls back, I mean, the risk on a vertical spread. If you're not familiar with options, then don't worry about it. But the risk on a vertical spread is limited. It's much more limited than buying the stock outright. Now of course, if things go the wrong way, you could lose all your money, but it's going to be cheaper, of course, because your risk is going to be fixed to a certain amount with a vertical spread. So that's a nice way to go about it. When you want to be aggressive, but you want to be able to control your risk while being aggressive at the same time, vertical spreads are good for that. And just Kai, out of curiosity, how long? How long is that vertical spread? Like, yeah, how many months is it? Or if you don't want to share, you don't have to, but I'm just curious to know. Okay, so let's see. Let me just go back. I had a few other, like Benjamin had a thing over here. If I miss your thing, I apologize. I know Alex from Romania, he had Sizzle. I'd like to look at Sizzle. But I don't know. Let me see if he put the symbol for that. Okay, I'm just going back. Benjamin, I love Chinese stocks. Do you think emerging? Okay, so I mean, let me answer the Chinese question real quick. I mean, again, just goes back to maybe other guys, if you guys have some perspective on that. But I believe that that's going to be a function of the yen and the global money supply. I mean, Chinese stocks, if we're seeing cheap money and we're seeing cheap now, again, Japan seems to be raising their rates or whatever. So I don't know how that's going to affect things. But if we're lowering ours, that's also going to affect the global money supply. So I think it should be good for Chinese stocks generally. Like I don't see why it would be bad. If we're having global inflation and if we're generating it here and this, if you know from our country here, I think it's good for all stocks, especially Chinese stocks that are involved in like the rare earth stuff and other industrial stuff. I think the Chinese stocks have some potential, but I'm not familiar with any particular Chinese stocks. Besides like Baidu and like all the main names, what is it? TSN, right? Taiwan Semiconductor. Those might be worth looking at, in that case. But I think the rare earths may have a lot of potential in that situation. Okay, Benjamin, JD, and MOH. Okay, let's do MOH first. But MP, definitely keep that on your radar, guys. MOH. All right. Okay, healthcare. MOH. Let's look at the weekly chart. I'm on the weekly chart here. Now, okay, so now we compare that stock. We were just looking at MP, right? MP Materials. Compare it to a stock that looks like this. This stock does not look as compelling, right? The structure here. Now, I don't know what their fundamental situation is, but the the structure here does not look great. First of all, we have this massive bearish structure, right? This bearish move right here. Whatever reason, on top of that, we have a resistance that developed over here. I'm sure there's a fib number that's associated with that. There's probably a fib number in there. I'm not going to measure it now. It doesn't matter. The thing is, there is a resistance here. Not only that, it's a lower high, and price made a lower low. So that's generally bearish. Now we compare that to Hood, compare that to MP, compare that to Coinbase. Those are healthy looking charts. This one, the only thing you have going that makes it attractive is the recent push higher, right? But it's a lower high so far. So this chart hasn't changed character, if you want to speak in ITC language. It hasn't changed character yet, right? It needs to break this resistance, first of all. So if you're interested, again, maybe it's a fundamental play from your side. I don't know. Let me see. You mentioned long or short. You haven't mentioned that. Okay. So I don't know if you're thinking short, that makes sense. If you're thinking long, then I would say it's risky. Short because look, you have a pin bar the previous week, right? Let me make that bigger so you can see, right? Pin bar previous week. Look at that pin bar, bearish pin bar. It's a possible lower high. Like the argument, if you break that low, that looks like a short argument to me. Okay. What's against the short argument, of course, is this momentum. So if you're thinking long because you want to play that momentum and you're thinking swing trade, well, then at least wait for some type of pullback into some type of support, right? Your first support is going to be around here somewhere. What is that? Hold on. That is around 165 if you're thinking long. Right? If you're thinking short, then you want to see a break of this pin bar low, 176 for a swing trade. This might be a good play for options as well. Okay, I just don't know much about this. Also, I mean, you want to talk about fair value gap, there's one right here. There's a fair value gap, a bearish one. So, and this thing is starting to react a bit, right? Make sense? So I'm going to point out when I see them, I'm going to point them out because, I'm trying to be in line with the consensus group that I'm working with. So makes sense, you guys? So I'm not crazy about this as a short, it makes sense as a swing trade. For a long, this thing, what you want to see, Benjamin, ideally, if you're thinking longer time frame, like if you're thinking investment, what you want to see is a pullback to like an area like this. You want to see a higher low establish, and you want to see something like that, and then a higher high develop. You want to see at least something like that. So if you start investing in it earlier, like the higher low or maybe test of low, understand you're taking greater risk. Okay. And it may go lower. So in a situation like that, perhaps you want to go smaller size, that kind of thing. All right, let's do the other one. I'm going to do both of yours because I know you were here a week before and I couldn't do them. So let's do JD. JD as in JD Vance, folks. JD Vance. Let's go. Let's go long, JD. All right. Let's see. I've heard of this stock. What do they do? JD.com. I don't know what they do. All right. So let's take a look. Weekly. Now this looks like a little bit better of a situation. In fact, this looks very similar to the render trade that I had, right? You had a push like this, which was the choach, the change in character. Choach. That sounds like something that you'd smoke. That sounds like something Booty Cheeks would smoke. Hey, Booty Cheeks, you got some choach? I want to smoke it. That's what comes to mind. I think of something to smoke. I don't smoke that funny stuff. I'm just saying. So anyway, but you have that change in character or whatever you want to call that. You have an old resistance right here. Look at that. Right. So and you reacted off of that, or you can't see it. Hold on. You can't see it there. If I make that bigger and I move out of the way, you can see this old resistance, right? Old resistance now acting as support. And price is trying to push off of it. And there's a double bottom situation over here. That's interesting. Right? Okay. So and you broke the high. There is a little bit of a change there. You took out and you broke a minor resistance. All right. So you still have this resistance up in here. You got to clear that to really confirm the change in trend, but it's starting. So this is a better look than MOH that we just went over. It's certainly a slightly better look. You're buying after a nice pullback, right? And it's popping up a bit. So this could be the beginning. So there's a couple of ways you could go about it. You could buy this breakout now. You could do maybe something with options. Vertical spread might be good with this, right? To control your risk a bit. Or you could see if you get one more pullback into that support. Another minor pullback area would be this old resistance that was cleared, right? Which is what? $30. So is that $30? Let me see. Yeah. $30 whole number, right? That makes sense. So if you're thinking of something like that, I just don't know if your outlook is like long-term investment or swing trade, because I mean, I could see the swing trade. I could definitely see the swing trade long. And as far as like long-term investment, and here's the monthly. Remember, when you're investing long-term, guys, you do have to do some fundamental homework. A chart is not going to give you all the answers. The chart is going to give you support and resistance and how to measure your risk. Okay. But it's not going to, you need to be aware of the fundamental situation. Like, are there any events on the horizon that can change this thing? Is there like an FDA approval? Is there some other kind of thing that they're planning to come out with? Or whatever that's like on a calendar somewhere, or maybe they come out with by surprise something that's being anticipated. You need to be aware of that, right? The chart alone is not going to be enough for an investment. Just want to make that clear. But the structure, you got a higher low here. I mean, generally, I like this one as far as it looks like it has some potential, right? And a reasonable price objective for something like this would be up here, $47. That would be a reasonable price objective from where you're coming from now. If it goes beyond that, basically clears $50, you're in good shape with this thing. So this one I'd consider this one. I like this one better than Mo as far as a long. And so I like this one, right? And I like MP from Kai there. That one looks I like that one a lot, especially because I like the fundamental story as far as longer term. Longer term meaning, excuse me, you're going to hold it for like a year or longer. All right, makes sense. Okay, guys. So I'm going to have to wrap it there because let me see. Oh, April. Thanks, Kai. Yeah, because I don't think I think I got it. Sizzle. I wanted to look at Sizzle, but I don't know the symbol. So, and I got to wrap this up, man. I got to work on my other stuff. So, guys, I really appreciate you coming here today. I hope you got something out of the stream. Here's here's Beto, by the way. No, it's GBTC. We can put this chart up here. Okay, this is the grayscale Bitcoin ETF. I can show this, which is basically just a copy of the Bitcoin chart, right? So does that not look similar to like Coinbase that we looked at, or Hood, right? And MP may be getting in on this as well, right? If they're all kind of moved together. I mean, is MP like, let's see, no MP. This is MP on the monthly. Right, MP looks actually a little. Look at that. That's a nice monthly chart. All right, so just going back to the grayscale. I mean, look at this. Every single video that I make, I always point out this higher low. right? So we pushed that 95K. This is the equivalent to 95K. You could see like we're in an opportunistic position here, right? So all those stocks I think would align with this as well. Remember, keep an eye on the interest rates because that's a major factor. We need to see that 10-year price rise and we need to see the yield go lower, right? That's going to be a key factor. We have CPI this week, which can affect that bond chart. And then we have that Senate hearing thing on Thursday, okay? Just wanted to remind you guys. All right, guys. So again, thank you so much. I hope you learned something. Make sure you go to join my Telegram group because updates are there constantly, and we'll do this again next week. All right. So enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And thank you so much for watching.